Hello, and welcome to the Haunting 101 podcast. This is your host, Professor Geist, and today we'll be investigating the spookier side of sunny California Lutheran University. Located about halfway between Los Angeles and Santa Barbara, Cal Lutheran doesn't seem like a likely candidate for a haunting. For one thing, it's not very old compared to many of the schools we discuss on this show. This private university was founded in 1959 and opened as California Lutheran College in 1961. It became a university in 1986. However, the hauntings date back to its earliest years. Just to provide some history, the land the university was built on had originally belonged to the Chumash people. They were displaced when their land was claimed by Spanish explorer Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo in 1542. Next, the land was claimed by the Mexicans after their War of Independence from Spain. Then the land was sold to others, among them a group of Norwegian Lutheran settlers, including Lars and Karen Pedersen. Those settlers founded a community called the Norwegian Colony in the Thousand Oaks area. Lars Pedersen died during a typhoid epidemic in 1910. His wife Karen and their two sons Lawrence and Richard moved away after the sickness-ravaged Norwegian colony disbanded. However, they returned in 1913 and lived in a little Sears catalog kit house on their ranch. When Richard Pedersen was ready to retire, he gave the deed to his ranch to the Planning Committee of California Lutheran College. 130 of the 300 acres that California Lutheran College owned were donated by Richard, and the rest of the land was purchased from other ranchers. The Pedersen donation included the family's Little Blue farmhouse and water tower, which are now Ventura County Historic Landmark No. 45 and Thousand Oaks Historical Landmark No. 3. Does the ghost of Karen Pedersen haunt the Pedersen house, now the home of California Lutheran's music department?
Sometimes, when I'm working late at night, I can hear thumping upstairs in the attic. And once I heard the sound of a piano. You'd think that isn't strange in the music house. Except I was all alone that night. I mentioned it to some of my colleagues the next day. They told me it was Karen Pedersen's ghost.
I'm usually the first person in the music building each morning, and I'll find things moved around, neatened, you know? At first I thought it was housekeeping, but they have a schedule. And sometimes my stuff gets moved on the days housekeeping isn't working. Personally, I think it's Mrs. Pedersen, still keeping an eye on her house.
The problem with these stories about Karen Pedersen haunting the Pedersen house is that we don't have any evidence that she died there. I did some research and found out that she died at age 92. So did she actually die in the house or somewhere else? So far, I haven't been able to find out.
And neither can we, listeners, neither can we. My crew and I spent 2 nights in the music house, but we didn't detect any sign of a haunting. Then again, maybe Mrs. Pedersen took one look at the mess of cords, cameras, and junk food our recording crew left around and just gave up on us. If you're listening, Mrs. Pedersen, we made sure to clean up before we left. However, Karen Pedersen isn't the most famous ghost at California Lutheran University. That honor belongs to the little boy who haunts the Mount Clef dormitory. The Mount Clef dormitory was built in 1962, a year after California Lutheran College began. The dormitory was all male until 1977. Today, the Mount Clef Residence Hall houses the university's first-year students. I appreciate that, putting all the freshmen into a haunted dorm. Welcome to college, students.
I first found out about the ghost on a website, and I didn't believe in him at first. Then when I first moved in, around 3 in the morning, I heard a big thud. I looked over and the door was slightly open, and then it shut by itself.
The Mount Clef ghost doesn't have an official name, but in 2009, the student newspaper reported that students had named the ghost Francisco. Later, an April Fool's issue of the paper ran a fake interview with the ghost in which it called itself Peter. Even though the article was a joke, some students still call the ghost Peter. Whatever the child's name, his story is a tragedy, as so many ghost stories are. I discovered a few websites that claim the boy died in a hotel, one located where Mount Clef is now. However, that's impossible. Remember, the college was built on ranch land. The closest hotel would have been the Stagecoach Inn, which is indeed haunted, but that's another podcast.
They say that when Mount Clef was being built, a little boy died while he was playing at the construction site under where the 300 Hall is now. The story says nobody found his body until they were doing renovations later. That's when they found him.
Maybe because he was only a child when he died, the Mount Clef ghost seems to be more of a prankster than a threat. Some students say he likes to take blankets away from them while they sleep. Others talk about locked bedroom doors swinging open and lights flickering.
The ghost is harmless. He's just a little trickster, so it's not something to be worried about. He just likes to tease you, especially when you're the most paranoid.
The freakiest occurrence that I was told about was when a group of people were walking down the hallway at 3 in the morning. While they were walking, they heard someone sprinting up behind them. But when they turned around, nobody was there.
I knew someone who lived in room 320. Her poster on the wall flew across the room in the middle of the night.
I heard creaks of a footstep literally start from my door to my bed, slowly, with the sound getting closer and closer. I tried to ignore it. I was just like, this isn't happening. Go to sleep.
At least once, students have tried contacting the ghost with a Ouija board.
It was me, my sweet mate, and one of my guy friends. We were just sitting there in the middle of the floor and the piece started moving. We knew that Mount Clef ghost was a little boy, so we asked him questions, like, are you young? Did you die here? Stuff like that. Yes or no questions. Then we asked if he could spell our names. He started saying random letters. Then we were like, do you know how to spell? And he said, no. I don't think he was old enough to read or write.
Not everybody's a believer, of course.
When I lived there, nothing ever happened to me. Some of the stories are crazy. I heard that someone woke up to everything in her room put into color-coordinated piles. Color-coordinated piles? How does that happen?
Perhaps it was Mrs. Peterson, doing some straightening up over in Mount Clef. The Haunting 101 crew tried to get permission to record in the dormitory, but since school is in session, the university administration denied us. So, until we can make it back during a break, we wish all the students at California Lutheran good luck with your ghostly neighbors.